Hello everyone, hello people. So I've been playing a lot of games recently and it made me think about some tactics that probably most people realise, but I think it'd be really useful for beginners and maybe some veterans alike that kind of maybe are still struggling with the game, or maybe it could just streamline and optimise some of your playstyle. So it's kind of thinking about who you go for priority wise in terms of targets, as well as that relationship it has with orders. So orders are the lifeblood of Infinity. It's kind of, without it you can't achieve anything. You can't kill stuff, you can't move, you can't take objectives. So orders are really, really important, I suppose, especially for last season. It's why you had spam lists that was so prominent. Even now they're pretty damn terrifying. What I'm proposing is about choosing who you go for in relation to what type of army or what type of list you are going for. So let's assume for the first scenario that you are going first and thus you want to alpha strike. Alpha striking in general is a term that we use for killing as much as possible and decimating their army before they even get a chance to react and move, and thus weakening them. So when you're playing a big spam order list against these armies. So if you've got, say, a 15 order plus list for Ariadna or Haqqislam, if you're going first, pretty much what you're doing is not going to make a massive dent if you start taking out lots of little guys. They're still going to have a huge amount of orders come their turn to essentially do what they want. So that's quite nice, because if you're playing that spam list, you've got a bit of a bumper. So you can stick things out, you can take lots of AROs, and if something dies, it doesn't matter because you've got 4 more guys that are going to do the same job. That's the point of it. So when you're going against that type of army, I would suggest that you have a look at the pieces on the board, and they're essentially going to have a few key higher up, more expensive models that do the dirty work. So this is going to be your specialist weapons, your special characters, or potentially maybe a tag or some high value, well, a tag is probably not, but your high value items. So we're thinking about maybe things like the Alpha Seed. You're thinking about those really juicy kind of models that get to the crux of it. Perhaps it might be a Sujan in a ISS list. Just those better, cool models, but all the specialist weapons as well, because let's be realistic here, you can only have up to 6 in a legal 300-point game, so there's going to be a limit of them with all that chaff that's on the table, okay? So I would suggest that you go and take out that, because then what's coming at you is just all the rubbish, all the basic line infantry troops that were there to just bring orders to the table. Now, they're probably still going to have a lot of specialists, which means that might influence their ability to do the mission. But you've taken out the hard-hitting stuff, you know. So in Aleph, you'd be looking at any of the special characters, especially sort of Achilles lists. Now, if you're playing someone who has taken a very succinct 10 order list, there is usually 1 or 2 absolute critical pieces to that list that the army is built around. So in an ISS list, you might have a Sujan, then a load of Guangxi to give the Sujan that ability to run up and kill everything from behind. In a tag list, it's going to be the tag. All the orders are feeding that tag. You know, so you've got one really good dude predominantly that everything else is in that order for. You know, the Rushi is a classic example of this. People just pump orders into it and it wipes the floor with people. Achilles might run forward. That's the key piece. Now, in a 10 order list, rather than taking out the main, well, I suppose you have 2 options. You can either take out the main bit that this army is built around and scupper someone's plans, but that's probably going to be quite difficult because they've thought about this and that's what they want to survive. So in a 10 order list, if you kill all the chaff, you're pretty much left with you've drained them. So when you've got that big Hussein coming around the corner to murk everyone, they can't because they've only got so many orders. So in a small list, you're going to be looking at taking out the specialists and any basic line infantry troop to stop them being able to do anything in their turn. So I suppose it's something that never really occurred to me in terms of picking priorities, because it's kind of like, well, what's there? Just kill it. It stood out, just anything is good. But if you can really, I suppose, hone in who your targets are going to be, you can pretty much cripple that list. So just a quick thought, I don't know if that's valuable to anyone, but in terms of target priority and sort of how that interacts with orders, just something I've been thinking about recently, which hopefully might be useful to you guys on the table. So let me know if you've got any other ways of picking your first targets. I'd be really interested in that, to see how that goes. I suppose on the flip side of things, it also means maybe you might want to think more about, if you've got a 10 order list, being really, really careful with the chaff guys that you might think, you know, they're 11 points, run them out. If they die, they die, but I'm moving towards the mission. But if you're going to then stop yourself being able to use your main piece, then actually they're probably a bit more valuable than you first thought. So yeah, let me know what you think. I think it's a really easy piece of tactics for anyone to learn in this game, and hopefully it will prove you good. So good luck.